Gentleman's time has expired. With that, we go to the gentleman from Texas. Mr. Gonzalez is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for being with us this morning. I'm pleased that the Treasury Department noticed the proposed rulemaking concerning the outbound investment screening program. There's no doubt that U.S. money should be kept out of the hands of Chinese and Russian firms. I also want to add another angle concerning foreign investment that's a concern to us in South Texas and I think along the border. Many of our constituents are seeing Chinese money flooding into Mexico where manufacturing facilities are at and are being developed south of the border, so goods can be shipped to the United States as a Mexican product instead of Chinese. And I worry that if we consider only the direct U.S. investments into Chinese or Russian factories, that they can produce technology of concern. Those investments may be directed instead to factories overseas and Chinese-owned companies in third nations. Will the Treasury Department consider, or have you already considered, those sort of nonlinear investments that aim to evade the goals of the President's outbound investment screening program? If not this mechanism, in what capacity could we work together in order to prevent U.S. investments from funding, for example, the semiconductor factory that's in Mexico owned by Chinese entities?
So I think you raise an important issue, and it's one that we're aware of at Treasury. I made a visit to Mexico last year, and this is a matter that I've discussed with senior Mexican officials. We're discussing with them developing their own, essentially, investment screening mechanism similar to our CFIUS. They're open to discussing and working with us on that. And I think that's a first step at looking at these issues. We realize the North American market is highly integrated and that we have a common interest in
That's what my next question was going to be. Have they been forthcoming and wanting to work with us?
They have been, and I discussed this when I was at Mexico at a press conference that I gave there.
Very well. I think it's a huge concern, not only our direct investments, but a lot of things that are happening with Chinese moving into that region.
You're right, and it's an important issue.
Thank you. Also, in 2023, Mexico received a record $63 billion in remittances. It was a 7.6% increase from 2022, of which 95% of this came from the United States. With a recent surge in remittances, I'm concerned that this has inadvertently made it easier for some of the Mexican cartels to launder drug money, and cartels use civilians as conduits for remittances who then hand the money back to the cartels, a practice known as smurfing. What is being done to limit the use of remittances as an avenue to finance illicit activities? How can we identify and monitor laundering schemes run through legitimate financial transactions? And I feel there's an increase. There was a recent report by a Reuters journalist that was down there that actually followed one of the ladies in Sinaloa that went to one of these places to collect the money and then kept a very small slice of it and gave the majority of it back to the cartels. It's a huge concern as remittances grow, and I think certainly they're harder to monitor and police. What are we doing, and what cooperation do we have from Mexico? I think that should be a clear area of concern. I just see it very unregulated.
So, I mean, we've certainly been focused on Mexican drug cartels and have been cracking down on them with Mexico's cooperation. With respect to remittances, many of them occur through money service businesses. And those businesses are subject to the Bank Secrecy Act, AML, CFT, compliance regime.
There's been a spike in these resources coming into Mexico, and it's just a concern being on the border and seeing all the activity and the growth of the Mexican cartels on the other side of the border is really worrisome, and I think we should pay closer attention to this. There's a Mexican think tank that just came up that said $4.4 billion of the money that we remitted to Mexico last year was sent directly to cartels, and I hope that we can continue to work on this issue. It's a huge concern for all of us.
It's an important issue, and of course, we want to work on it.
Thank you so much.